When God decides to change your life, He does it quietly. He does not send thunder. He does not ask for witnesses. He simply opens a door that no man could open and waits to see what you will do next. And here is the truth. Most people never learn. The moment financial blessing enters your life is not the moment to speak. It is the moment to listen. Because when money comes from God, it is not noise you need. It is wisdom. It is discipline. It is silence. Some blessings are so divine, so fragile in their early stages, that one careless word can expose them to jealousy, to doubt, to spiritual interference that was never meant to touch your destiny. God does not just bless you to see you smile. He blesses you to see if you can handle the weight of what you prayed for. Can you stay humble when abundance arrives? Can you stay silent when favor becomes visible? Can you walk with blessings the way a wise man walks with fire, carefully, reverently, intentionally? Because prosperity is not proof that the battle is over. Prosperity is the beginning of a new test, a test of stewardship, a test of character, a test of spiritual maturity, and God is watching. He wants to know if you will protect what He gave you, or if you will announce what was meant to grow in the dark. So when this money comes, when the blessing that was written for you finally reaches your hands, do not speak too soon. Do not rush to explain. Do not try to be seen. Move quietly, move wisely, move with God, because silence is not hiding. Silence is protection. Silence is obedience. Silence is power. There is a spiritual law that governs every breakthrough, every elevation, and every financial blessing that comes from God. It is a law older than kingdoms, older than wealth, older than mankind itself. The wise understand it, the humble respect it, and the mature protect it. This law is simple, yet powerful. What God gives you in private must be guarded in private until He decides it is ready to be revealed. Every blessing carries a season of silence. Every miracle requires a period of protection. Every new level demands a shield of secrecy. Why? Because blessings are like seeds. They are strongest when they are planted in silence and weakest when they are exposed too early. Think of the seed buried deep in the soil. No one can see it. No one celebrates it. No one posts it on social media. But beneath the ground, in silence, a transformation is happening. Roots are forming, strength is developing, foundation is being built, and only when that seed becomes strong enough to endure the wind does it break through the surface. The same is true of divine blessings, especially financial ones. When God begins to shift your life, when He begins to elevate your situation, when He begins to send provision your way, the blessing is still spiritually tender. It is still stabilizing. It is still finding its roots in your life. And if you expose it too soon, you risk losing the very thing you prayed for. Most people destroy what God gives them not by misuse, but by announcing it before its foundation is secure. They expose their seed before it becomes a tree. They reveal their promise before it takes root. They shout the news before heaven completes the work. And the moment their blessing becomes public too early, it enters the arena of human eyes, eyes that carry jealousy, doubt, spiritual interference, and unseen resistance. This is why the divine law of silent blessings exists. Because God is not only protecting the blessing, He is protecting you. He knows the hearts of people around you. He knows who applauds loudly but prays against you quietly. He knows who smiles in your face but resents your progress in private. He knows who cannot digest your elevation because it exposes their stagnation. So God heeds you not to punish you, but to preserve you, not to limit you, but to strengthen you, not to silence you, but to prepare you. And when your money comes from God, when it is heaven sent, heaven timed, and heaven protected, He will require silence from you first. Silence builds discernment. Silence builds maturity. Silence builds clarity. Silence builds spiritual muscle. In silence, you learn to manage your blessing. In silence, you learn to hear God's blueprint. In silence, you learn who belongs in your next season and who must stay behind. The divine law of silent blessings teaches you that private gratitude is more powerful than public celebration, because gratitude whispered in the dark carries more spiritual weight than victory shouted from rooftops. Understand this with your spirit. A blessing revealed too early is a blessing exposed to attack. A blessing revealed at the right time is a blessing protected by God Himself. This is why your first reaction when the money comes must not be excitement. It must be awareness. Awareness that heaven is watching. Awareness that enemies are listening. Awareness that the blessing is still fragile. Awareness that silence is your spiritual shield. And once you master this law, you step into a level of wisdom that separates conquerors from casualties. For the greatest victories in life are not won in public. They are won in the quiet chambers of discipline, gratitude, and divine obedience. They are won by those who know how to protect what God has placed in their hands. That is the divine law of silent blessings. Most people believe that God tests them through struggle, scarcity, and lack. They think hardship is the greatest battlefield of faith. But this is only half the truth, because while poverty tests your endurance, prosperity tests your character, lack reveals your patience, but abundance reveals your heart. And the test of prosperity is far more dangerous, far more subtle, and far more revealing than the test of struggle. Understand this. Anyone can be humble when they have nothing, but only the mature stay humble when they finally have something. It is easy to pray when the cupboards are empty. It is easy to seek God when life feels heavy. It is easy to depend on heaven when earth has nothing to offer. But what happens when the money comes, when the comfort appears, when the doors that were once locked begin opening automatically, when the prayers you whispered in the night become the blessings you hold in your hands? That is the real test. Prosperity exposes what poverty hides. When you have nothing, pride sleeps. When you receive something, pride awakens. Wealth doesn't change you, it reveals you. God knows this. This is why sometimes He delays blessings, not because He is punishing you, but because He is preparing you. He is building the strength required to carry abundance without being destroyed by it. When God increases your wealth, He is also increasing the weight on your spirit, because every blessing comes with responsibility. Every elevation comes with new warfare. Every level of abundance requires new discipline. The question heaven asks is not, can you celebrate the blessing, but rather, can you steward it? Can you stay grounded when life rises? Can you remain faithful when your hands are full? Can you walk softly when your bank account becomes loud? You hear God clearly when comfort begins speaking. Of all the tests God gives, prosperity is the most refined, because abundance does not challenge your strength. It challenges your self-control. It tempts you to forget who carried you when you had nothing. It tempts you to drift from the source, because now you have the resource It tempts you to depend on your own power rather than the one who gave you power. This is why God watches closely when He blesses you. He is not only measuring what enters your hands, He is measuring what remains in your heart. Will you still pray with the same sincerity? Will you still honor Him with the same intensity? Will you still move with the same humility? Will you still walk with the same discipline? Because money is not just a tool, it is a magnifier. It multiplies whatever is already inside you. If generosity lives in your heart, prosperity will expand it. If greed lives in your heart, prosperity will expose it. If wisdom guides your life, prosperity will strengthen it. If pride lurks in your spirit, prosperity will amplify it. This is why God tests you with abundance, not to see if you can receive it, but to see if you can carry it. For the real fight begins, not when you are in need, but when you no longer are. When the pressure of survival lifts, your true values rise. When the struggle ends, your real priorities reveal themselves. Prosperity asks questions. Poverty never could. Do you remember who blessed you? Do you remember the nights you cried? Do you honor the journey that shaped you? Do you stay grateful when the storm is calm? Do you stay disciplined when life becomes easy? God is not interested in raising wealthy people with weak spirits. He is molding individuals who can handle abundance without losing purpose. People who can increase without inflating. People who rise without forgetting. You call attention to a blessing that is not yet ready to stand. The moment you reveal too much, too soon, you shift from being covered to being exposed. Think of it like this. The enemy cannot attack what he does not know exists. He cannot plan against what he cannot see. He cannot interfere with what is still hidden under divine protection. Your silence is your shelter. Your discretion is your shield. Your privacy is your spiritual armor. There is a universal truth written into the fabric of spiritual law. What is exposed too early becomes vulnerable. A seed is never shown to the world. A root is never displayed. A foundation is never broadcast, because the beginning of anything powerful is also the most fragile. This is why God warns you, when the blessing comes, keep quiet. Most people sabotage their own breakthroughs, not because the blessing wasn't real, but because their mouth moved faster than their maturity. They announced what God was still forming. They revealed what was still developing. They spoke publicly about something that was meant to grow privately, and the moment they exposed it, the spiritual climate changed. Eyes began watching. Envy began forming. Doubtful voices began whispering. Unseen energies began stirring, not because the blessing was wrong, but because it was unprotected. Understand this deeply. A seed cannot survive the pressure of public opinion. A dream that is still sprouting cannot endure the storm of jealousy. A blessing that is still small cannot withstand the weight of comparison. You ruin what God is doing when you reveal it before it gains strength. When you speak too early, you invite unnecessary warfare. You awaken voices that were meant to remain asleep. You open the door to energies that feed on insecurity. You attract people who are more curious than supportive. You call attention to a blessing that is not yet ready to stand. The moment you reveal too much, too soon, you shift from being covered to being exposed. Think of it like this. The enemy cannot attack what he does not know exists. He cannot plan against what he cannot see. He cannot interfere with what is still hidden under divine protection. Your silence is your shelter. Your discretion is your shield. Your privacy is your spiritual armor. When you speak prematurely, you walk out from under God's covering. You step into environments where not everyone has a pure heart. Some people clap while secretly hoping you fail. Some smile while quietly comparing. Some nod while silently resenting your rise. Their words may be kind, but their energy is not, and energy can influence outcomes. This is why heaven trains you to move quietly, because spiritual maturity is not measured by how loudly you shout blessings, but by how wisely you protect them. A loud beginning often leads to a short life. A quiet beginning often leads to divine longevity. Look at nature. Look at greatness. Look at every success story that has endured time. They all began in silence. Roots grow in darkness. Foundations form underground. Vision develops in solitude. Purpose strengthens in quiet spaces. And blessings grow strongest when guarded. People who grow without drifting. This is why your blessing may come slowly, not because God is distant, but because He is careful, for He knows the weight of what you are asking for. And when He finally gives it, He is watching to see one thing: will you stay wise when wealth arrives? Because that is the true measure of prosperity, not what you gain, but who you become. You don't owe explanations for blessings that are still being built. You don't owe details about what God is forming. You don't need to validate your progress to anyone. Let your results speak later. Let your fruit appear in due time. Let your blessing mature before it becomes visible. Because the moment you stop announcing and start nurturing, your blessing becomes unstoppable. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not passivity. In the realm of divine elevation, silence is a strategy, a spiritual technology designed to protect your blessing, clarify your path, and strengthen your spirit. Wealth that comes from God does not arrive with noise. It arrives with instruction. And the first instruction is almost always the same: be still. Listen. Don't speak yet. Why? Because silence is the atmosphere where God reveals direction. Noise is the environment where confusion grows. If the enemy wants to sabotage your blessing, he does not need to steal your money. He only needs to distract your mind. And distraction often comes through unnecessary conversations, careless announcements, and the desire to be seen. When God elevates you financially, He is not just giving you resources, He is giving you a mission. And missions require clarity. Clarity requires focus. And focus requires silence. 1. Silence protects spiritual instruction. God does not shout, He whispers. He leads gently. He guides quietly, and His most important guidance often comes at the exact moment your life becomes loud. That is why people miss their next step. They celebrate too loudly. They share too widely. They exchange divine direction for public conversation. But those who remain silent in their elevation can hear God clearly. They receive strategies others will never understand. They avoid mistakes others blindly walk into. They discern opportunities others misinterpret. Your silence creates spiritual bandwidth. It opens space for wisdom to speak. 2. Silence prevents emotional decisions. Money produces emotion. Emotion produces impulse. Impulse produces loss. This is why new wealth must be held in silence. Before you announce it, you must understand it. Before you spend it, you must anchor your spirit. Before you expand, you must stabilize. People who talk too soon often spend too soon. People who brag early often fail early. People who seek validation waste wealth, proving things to people who do not matter. Silence force discipline. It slows your reactions. It teaches self-control. It anchors your priorities. 3. Silence protects you from the eyes that don't clap. Not everyone wants your success to succeed. Not everyone is mature enough to witness your blessing, and not everyone can watch your growth without feeling their own stagnation. The eyes you attract determine the battles you face. Silence keeps the wrong eyes away. It shields you from envy, jealousy, spiritual interference, and unnecessary spiritual warfare. When you stay silent, you move undetected. You rise without resistance. You build without interruption. You grow without distortion. 4. Silence strengthens your connection with God the more He gives. The quieter you must become, not because you are fearful, but because you are becoming spiritually strategic. God wants your wealth to be handled with reverence, not noise, with wisdom, not ego, with maturity, not excitement. The greatest stewards of divine wealth are not the loud, they are the silent, the ones who rise in stillness, the ones who build in private, the ones who manage blessings as sacred assignments, not social trophies. 5. Silence is the soil. Where divine wealth grows, noise creates pressure. Pressure stunts growth. Silence creates space. Space allows expansion. When you stay silent, you allow your blessing to develop deep roots, roots that make your wealth stable, enduring, and unshakable. You cannot build an empire on noise. You build it on discipline, structure, and intention. And each of these requires silence. In the divine realm of wealth, silence is not a suggestion. It is a requirement, a shield, a filter, a sacred boundary, because the quiet man does not rise unnoticed. He rises protected. There is a mystery in the way God blesses His children, a rhythm, a sequence, a divine order that the impatient soul rarely understands. God often gives long before He reveals. He places the blessing in your hands long before He allows the world to see it. He answers your prayer long before He permits you to announce it. This is why the spiritually immature sabotage themselves. They reveal what God only intended them to receive, not yet display. The difference between what is given and what is revealed is the difference between a seed and a harvest. A seed is real, but not ready. A harvest is visible, but only after the seed has survived its hidden season. Divine wealth works the same way. 1. God gives in private, but reveals in stages before God blesses your life publicly. He strengthens your character privately before He expands your territory externally. He expands your discipline internally before He lets the world see your abundance. He trains your spirit to carry it without collapsing under the weight. This is why some blessings are concealed, not because they are small, but because they are fragile. Like a newborn, blessings need time to grow bones before they face the world's wind. 2. Not everything God gives is meant to be shown immediately. There are blessings that glow in the dark, blessings God wants to protect until their roots grow deep. If you reveal too soon, you expose the process to people whose words can bruise what God is still building. If you speak too quickly, you invite opinions into something that is not yet strong enough to handle interference. God hides your blessing not to limit you, but to shield you. He conceals progress to prevent attack. He delays visibility to ensure stability. What is given is for your growth. What is revealed is for God's glory. 3. Your blessing has a maturing phase. Just because something is divine doesn't mean it is instantly complete. There is a silent season where God teaches you how to manage what you prayed for, how to think like the new version of you, how to discern real opportunity from disguised traps, how to protect your blessing from greed, pride, and careless decisions, how to operate at a higher financial frequency. Blessings are not only financial, they are mental upgrades, spiritual expansion, new habits, new vision. And these must mature before exposure. A tree takes years before fruit appears. A blessing takes discipline before it shines. 4. God reveals only when you can withstand the weight. Many people want the spotlight without the structure. But God is not building influencers, He is building stewards. He will not reveal what you cannot yet sustain. He will not display what you cannot yet protect. He will not elevate you into a space where your character cannot survive. Visibility is warfare. Exposure is responsibility. Public blessing attracts public battles. And so God asks, are you rooted deeply enough to not be shaken? Can you manage success quietly before carrying it loudly? Are you humble enough to receive without boasting? Are you wise enough to discern when to reveal and when to withhold? When you can answer yes through your decisions, not your words, God unveils what He has already given. 5. The wisdom of waiting. Waiting is not delay. Waiting is preparation. Waiting is insulation. Waiting is protection. God does not withhold from you. He withholds for you. He waits until your spirit is steady. Your mind is sober. Your habits are disciplined. Your circle is purified. Your motives are aligned. Because revelation without preparation is destruction. But when God knows you can handle the blessing without losing yourself, without announcing too soon, without mismanaging resources, without drifting from Him, He lifts the curtain, and the world sees what heaven already approved. When what was given becomes what is revealed, you step into destiny, not danger. Before God elevates your finances, evaluates your heart. Most people think wealth is a blessing. Few understand it is first a test, a spiritual x-ray that exposes everything hidden beneath your confidence, your character, and your intentions. Poverty tests your faith, but prosperity tests your truth, and the second test is far more dangerous, because no amount of lack can destroy you the way abundance without discipline can. 1. Wealth reveals what lack could hide when you have nothing. It is easy to appear humble. When you are broke, it is easy to seem patient, grateful, obedient. But when money comes, when you finally hold what you used to dream about, your true nature rises to the surface. Wealth magnifies what was already inside you. If your heart is generous, money multiplies that generosity. If your heart is greedy, money amplifies that greed. If your heart is peaceful, money strengthens that peace. If your heart is wounded, money deepens the wound. Money doesn't change people. It reveals people. This is why God tests your heart before He expands your bank account. He is not checking your income. He is checking your integrity. 2. God does not bless ego, He blesses purpose. Many people pray for wealth, but their motives whisper something God cannot bless, Lord. Make me rich so they will notice me, so I can prove them wrong, so they will finally respect me, so I never feel small again. But God is not interested in funding your insecurity. He is interested in funding your assignment. He gives wealth to those who understand that money is not a throne, it is a tool. Not a crown, but a calling. Not a symbol, but a responsibility. 3. Wealth tests your memory. When money arrives, God watches one thing closely. Will you remember who carried you when you had nothing? He watches to see if success will make you forget the nights you prayed through tears, the times you were overlooked, the meals you skipped, the jobs that rejected you, the battles that bruised you, the storms that shaped you. Prosperity is often the moment people lose their spiritual hunger. They stop praying with the same fire. They stop seeking God with the same urgency. They stop being grateful for small things. And that is why God tests the heart to see if you can stay faithful when full, not only faithful when empty. 4. Wealth tests your discipline. Before God gives you much, He watches what you do with little. If you cannot manage $100 with wisdom, you will mismanage $100,000. If you cannot control your emotions with scarcity, you will collapse under abundance. If you cannot save when you are small, you will self-destruct when you are big. Money demands maturity. The undisciplined mind wastes. The wounded heart overspends. The insecure soul shows off. The unhealed spirit attracts chaos. This is why God delays certain blessings, not to punish you, but to prepare you. 5. Wealth tests who you allow into your life when your blessing comes. So the people, and not all of them, are sent by God. Some want access, not friendship. Some want benefits, not relationship. Some want your blessing, not your well-being. So God watches. Who do you give influence to? Who do you trust? Who do you let into your new season? Who do you allow into your peace? Wealth will introduce you to people who clap for you publicly but compete with you privately. And only a trained heart can discern the difference. 6. Wealth tests whether you will serve or show off. The greatest test of holiness is not poverty, it is prosperity. Anyone can be spiritual when they have nothing to lose. But can you be spiritual when you have everything? Can you choose purpose over pride, service over showing generosity, over greed, obedience over ego? God gives wealth to those who can carry it without worshiping it, because abundance in the wrong hands leads to arrogance. But abundance in the right hands leads to impact. 7. The real reason God tests your heart. Here is the truth. God is not trying to see whether you can become wealthy. He is testing whether you can stay aligned while wealthy. He wants to know if your character can rise at the same speed as your finances, if your humility can grow at the same rate as your influence, if your wisdom can expand with your opportunities, because prosperity without purity is poison. God tests your heart not to withhold wealth, but to make sure wealth will not withhold Him from your life. There are seasons in your life when silence is not weakness. It is strategy. It is armor. It is alignment with God. When God begins to elevate you financially, spiritually, mentally, His first instruction is almost always the same. Be still. Say nothing yet. Because elevation attracts attention, and attention attracts spirits, intentions, and energies you may not be ready to handle. Silence is not hiding. Silence is protection. 1. Silence shields what is still growing. Every blessing has stages. Seed, root, sprout. 3. Fruit. Most people announce the blessing at the sprout stage when it is still fragile, still forming, still too immature to survive exposure. They speak too soon. I show too much. Share too widely, inviting eyes and energies that were never meant to be part of the process. But God understands something we forget. It is easier to destroy a seed than to cut down a tree. This is why he tells you to protect your blessing until it becomes strong enough to withstand jealousy, opinion, and spiritual interference. Growth requires privacy. 2, silence prevents spiritual interference. In the spiritual world, words are signals. They activate forces both divine and destructive. When you speak prematurely, you send an invitation into the unseen realm. Look here. Something is forming. That invitation reaches both angels and adversaries. The enemy cannot attack what he cannot identify. When you stay silent, you remain invisible beneath God's covering. When you speak too early, you reveal your coordinates. Not everyone who smiles is at peace with your progress. Not everyone who listens is wishing you well, and not every ear deserves access to your elevation. Silence protects your spiritual location. 3, silence exposes who is for you. There is a holy wisdom in watching who supports you when you have nothing, and who changes when you begin to rise. If you announce too early, you attract people who love the blessing, not the builder. But when you stay silent, you allow God to filter your circle naturally. Those who are meant for you will love you in every season. Those who are not will reveal themselves without you saying a word. Silence is separation, divine separation. 4, silence strengthens discernment. When you speak less, you hear more. You hear God more clearly. You hear your intuition more sharply. You hear the motives of others more accurately. Talking creates noise. Silence creates insight. Prosperity is not just about receiving money, it's about having the spiritual intelligence to keep it. You cannot hear divine instruction when your mouth is louder than your spirit. In silence, God teaches you where to invest, who to trust, what to build, what to avoid, when to move, when to wait. Elevation without discernment leads to downfall. Silence keeps your spirit aligned. 5, silence removes the need for validation. When your blessing is new, there is temptation to prove yourself. Look at what I finally have. See how far I've come? Now they will respect me. But that desire is rooted in insecurity, not purpose. God does not elevate you so you can be admired. He elevates you so you can fulfill your assignment. The moment you seek validation, you shift your focus from God's voice to people's applause. And applause is the quickest way to lose spiritual grounding. In silence, you learn to trust what God is doing without needing the world to congratulate you. 6, silence protects your peace. The more people know, the more opinions you must manage. Noise brings pressure. Silence brings peace. People cannot judge what they cannot see. They cannot question what you do not reveal. They cannot sabotage what they do not know exists. Your peace is part of your wealth, and silence protects it. 7, silence allows God to be the voice. When you stay quiet, God speaks through results. You won't need to explain your progress. People will see your discipline. They will feel your transformation. They will witness your elevation. Your silence becomes a testimony louder than any announcement. You become the kind of person whose success whispers, but whose presence speaks volumes. 8, silence aligns you with divine timing. There is a difference between what God gives you and when God wants it revealed. Some blessings are meant to stay underground until the right moment, the moment when God gets the glory. Not your pride, Silence is your agreement with divine timing. It is your way of saying, Lord, I will not move until you say speak. I will not reveal until you say show. I will not announce until you say now. That is maturity. That is obedience. That is mastery. There is a moment in every rise when the breakthrough is still tender, almost invisible to the eye, but fully alive in the spirit. It is a sacred moment, a quiet unfolding, and it is in this fragile beginning that many people unknowingly sabotage the very blessing they prayed for. Not through failure, not through doubt, but through speaking too soon. It begins innocently. Excitement rises. Gratitude swells. And the heart wants to share. It wants to tell the world, look what God is finally doing for me. But what feels like joy can quickly become vulnerability, because not every ear that hears your blessing is capable of honoring it. Some will envy, some will question, some will doubt, and some will silently hope that what you gained will crumble. Most people underestimate the spiritual impact of their words. They do not understand that the moment you speak a blessing into the open, you expose it to energies, opinions, and intentions that were never meant to touch it. Words create openings. Announcements attract attention, and attention is not always benign. There are people who are comfortable with you struggling, but unsettled. When you begin to rise, they felt safe when you were small. Your elevation reminds them of what they could be, but chose not to become. Your progress confronts their stagnation, and the moment you announce your blessing, you awaken their insecurity. But the danger is not only external, there is also the internal shift that occurs when you speak prematurely. The minute you announce your progress, a subtle pressure forms inside you. You begin to feel obligated to perform, to prove, to produce results at a pace that matches your announcement. Your energy shifts from gratitude to expectation, from surrender to anxiety. Instead of moving with divine timing, you start moving with human timelines, rushing what God intended to grow slowly. A blessing spoken too early becomes a burden. You start living for the appearance instead of the purpose. Your focus drifts from nurturing the seed to defending the sprout. You waste spiritual strength trying to explain what God has not even finished revealing. There is also the danger of misunderstanding. When you share early, people begin to project their fears onto your blessing. They advise you from their insecurities. They plant seeds of doubt disguised as concern. They introduce confusion where clarity once lived. And if you are not spiritually anchored, those voices can penetrate your confidence and suffocate your vision. What was once a divine promise can begin to feel like an uncertain possibility. All because the wrong voices were allowed into the conversation. Even worse, speaking too soon can make you careless. It tempts you to celebrate the seed as if it were already the harvest. You mistake the beginning for the completion. And when you celebrate prematurely, you stop nurturing, stop praying, stop building with the same intensity. Early praise becomes a substitute for continued discipline. God understands this human tendency. That is why so many of his blessings begin in silence, concealed, subtle, almost hidden. He knows that spiritual roots form strongest in quiet soil. He knows that the early stages of a blessing are when it needs the most protection. And he knows that premature exposure can damage what he intends to flourish. Speaking too soon is not just a social mistake. It is a spiritual risk, because your destiny carries weight. And wait requires wisdom. It's not that God wants you isolated, He wants you insulated. He wants your blessing guarded until it can stand on its own, until it is strong enough to withstand the winds of opinion, jealousy, and spiritual interference. Silence is not suppression. It is safeguarding. It is the decision to let God complete the foundation before you reveal the structure. When the blessing is ready, it will reveal itself effortlessly. You won't have to announce it. People will see it. Your life will speak louder than any words you could have said. To speak too soon is to expose the seed before it becomes a tree. To stay silent is to honor the process that leads to harvest. There is an economy far older and far wiser than any system built by human hands. It does not rise and fall with markets. It does not depend on interest rates, inflation, or political cycles. It flows from a higher realm governed by laws that do not change. This is the spiritual economy of divine wealth, the system through which God releases abundance, not according to effort alone, but according to alignment, intention, and obedience. In the spiritual economy, money is not the foundation. It is the byproduct. The true currency is character. God measures wealth not by what you possess, but by what you can steward without losing yourself. He looks not for hands eager to receive, but for hearts prepared to carry. This is why some people pray for increase, but see no movement. Their spirit is not yet shaped to hold what their mouth is asking for. Divine wealth does not come by accident. It arrives when your internal world becomes compatible with heaven's intention. It requires integrity, humility, discipline, and spiritual maturity, not perfection, but alignment. Because in God's economy, abundance is not earned, it is entrusted. And God will never entrust what you will mishandle. He will not place wealth in a soul that will be corrupted by it. Nor will He elevate someone who will use the blessing to exalt themselves rather than glorify Him. The spiritual economy has its own laws, and the first is the law of intention. God does not bless greed, He blesses purpose. Money given to a self-centered heart becomes a weapon of destruction. Money given to a purposeful heart becomes a tool of transformation. When your intention is to lift, to build, to serve, and to expand the good in the world, heaven takes notice. The second law is circulation. In the spiritual economy, what you hoard with fear shrinks. What you release with wisdom grows. God does not flow through clenched fists. He flows through open hands, hands that give quietly, help discreetly, and bless without seeking applause. Divine wealth increases through movement, through generosity that is guided not by pride, but by compassion and discernment. The third law is alignment. God will never increase what competes with Him. When wealth becomes an idol, heaven becomes silent. But when wealth becomes worship, when every dollar is treated as divine assignment, God releases more, because in His economy, abundance is not simply provision, it is partnership. The fourth law is secrecy, not the secrecy of fear, but the secrecy of wisdom. Divine wealth grows best in silence, develops best in stillness, and thrives in environments free from envy, noise, and spiritual interference. You protect what is sacred by keeping it sacred. And the final law is gratitude. Not the shallow gratitude that comes after receiving, but the deep gratitude that precedes manifestation. Gratitude aligns your spirit with increase. It signals to heaven that you are ready, steady, and trustworthy with more in the spiritual economy. God is not looking for people who want to be rich. He is looking for people who are ready to be responsible, humble, wise, and aligned, because divine wealth is not just about what you gain, it is about who you become while receiving it. When God sends abundance into a person's life, He is not merely increasing their resources, He is revealing their character. Wealth does not change who you are. It exposes who you have always been beneath the pressure of survival. When money comes from God, it carries a spiritual weight, and only a refined character can carry that weight without collapsing beneath it. Character is the invisible infrastructure behind every blessing. Without it, abundance becomes a burden. With it, abundance becomes a tool. This is why God often develops the person before He delivers the provision. He strengthens the vessel before He pours the oil. He allows challenges, delays, to disappointments, and seasons of silence, not to punish you, but to shape the integrity required to sustain what is coming. The first pillar of character is humility. True humility is not weakness. It is spiritual awareness. It is the understanding that every door opened was opened by God, not by ego. Humility keeps you grounded when success tries to lift you too high. It reminds you that the source is greater than the resource, and the giver is greater than the gift. When money comes, humility keeps your heart clean. Without humility, wealth becomes poison. The second pillar is discipline. Abundance without discipline is disaster. Money magnifies your habits. If your habits are chaotic, your wealth will be temporary. If your habits are ordered, your wealth will grow. Discipline determines your ability to manage what God gives you, your spending, your decisions, your environment, your associations. The undisciplined person loses blessings faster than they receive them, but the disciplined person multiplies every seed placed in their hand. The third pillar is discernment. Wealth attracts people, some genuine, many not. You must be able to see beyond smiles, beyond flattery, beyond the surface. Discernment allows you to recognize who belongs in your next season and who must remain in your past. Without discernment, wealth becomes a trap. With discernment, wealth becomes a platform for purpose. The fourth pillar is self-control. Prosperity tests your impulses far more than poverty ever could. Can you remain calm when you have options? Can you remain wise when you have access? Can you remain focused when distractions increase? The one who masters their impulses becomes unshakable. The one who is controlled by their impulses becomes vulnerable. The fifth pillar is gratitude. Gratitude keeps your heart soft. It prevents entitlement from creeping in. It reminds you of the nights you prayed, the days you struggled, the seasons when you survived only by faith. Gratitude transforms wealth from a possession into worship. It anchors you, protects you, and keeps your spirit aligned with God's purpose. And the final pillar is integrity. True wealth is not measured by what you gain, but by what you refuse to lose your values, your principles, your truth. Integrity ensures that prosperity does not corrupt you. It ensures that you never exchange your soul for success. It ensures that God can trust you not only with money, but with influence, with authority, with legacy. When God sends abundance, He is not rewarding you. He is promoting you, and promotion requires preparation. Wealth is not just an increase in numbers, it is an increase in responsibility. The character you build before the blessing becomes the foundation that sustains the blessing. Because in the end, anyone can receive wealth, but only those with character can carry it. When God sends abundance into your life, it is never random. It is never accidental. It is the result of every tear you cried, every prayer you whispered, every storm you survived. But listen, this is the moment that separates the wise from the careless. Many people lose the blessing the moment they receive it, not because the blessing was weak, but because they spoke too soon, shared too widely, moved too loudly, or forgot who carried them through the wilderness. But you are different. You have learned that silence is not hiding. Silence is stewardship. Silence is strategy. Silence is spiritual maturity. You understand now that when God lifts you, He expects you to protect what He gives, to walk softly, to move wisely, to honor the blessing more than the applause. So stand tall in this moment. Keep your blessings sacred. Keep your heart humble. Keep your spirit grounded, because the ones who know how to handle small blessings in silence are the ones God can trust with blessings so big they shake generations. And now, if this message has awakened something inside you, if it reminded you of your purpose, your discipline, your destiny, subscribe to the channel for more teachings that elevate your spirit, sharpen your wisdom, and align your life with divine abundance. Like this video if it spoke to your soul. Comment below, I will protect what God gives me. And remember, true wealth is quiet. Divine prosperity is sacred. And the blessing that comes from God must be carried with wisdom. You're rising. Stay ready. Stay silent. Stay wise.